So we are in the beginning of the silly season for golf. Everybody's talking about the new releases. They're coming up pretty quick. Reps are making their rounds to the golf shops and golf stores in order to say, hey, this is the coolest stuff ever. We need to buy this. Is that really true? Welcome back to the McGolf Shop. Jim McCleary here, and this is the McGolf channel where we talk about golf club repairs, golf club reviews, golf club fittings, all so your scores can go low. If you would, like, subscribe, hit that stuff that's across the bottom there, and that way you'll get more of these videos as they drop. Now, what were we talking about just a minute ago? We're talking about, new releases. Everybody, when we talk about new releases, it's, wow, is this the latest, greatest thing ever since sliced bread? New designs, new ways of thinking, new forging processes, new technological gimmicks, new shafts, the whole 9 yards, right? And is it really needed, right? Do we really need it? That's a topic you see on a lot of the forums, is like, oh, I got my Ping i2s and they do me just fine. Well, that's until you probably hit the new Ping i40s or i430s or whatever they are, and it's a whole different animal. Now, there are different properties on golf clubs that may be suiting that person that makes them feel more comfortable, right? So what I wanted to do was go through. I'm a pack rat. I have said that several times in my live stream. I have 5 sets of irons, and they reach back as far as about 10 years old. All right, so I have the current set that it's in there, the Wilson Dynaforged. I have my Wilson Dynaforged here, and then I have a Callaway Rogue Pro ST, and I have a Mizuno, the SEL. Keep in mind, I'm a lefty, the 921 SEL. Plus, I have 2 other ones that I'm going to wait to show you here in a little bit. They're all different. They're all from different time periods, and they all hit differently. So, which one would you choose after we hit them? All right, before we get started on all of this testing, we got to go back through. Now, I've had clubs in my bags or in storage, because we all maintain our stuff pristine, right? That I had to rejuvenate the clubs a little bit so the test was a little fair. So the very first thing that we need to do is we need to clean off the grips. We need to make sure they're not going to come flying out of my hands. 10-year-old grips, they have a real opportunity for disintegrating, right? But I keep all my stuff inside, and that's a tip for you guys. If you want your equipment to last, you want to keep it in a constant environment. Put in the garage is nice. It's better than, say, maybe in your car. However, if you really want your equipment to last, even throw them in your closet, right? In your closet at the house is the better way to go. Now, because I've done this, and I really don't put a truckload of rounds. I'm not a 2 to 3 week round guy because of being in the golf business. So what we do, I tend to use the stuff from Club Glove. It's called the Tour Towel. It's what you see on TV. It's a very aggressive microfiber. You get the end of the towel extraordinarily hot with hot water, and you just start rubbing it down, and you'll hear it starting to squeak. When you hear it squeak, you know you've got all the dirt off of it. You just let it set to the side. It'll dry on its own, and typically in a much, much better fashion. Now, what else do we do? Well, I wanted to make sure at least I was in some realm of consistency. I didn't have a whole bunch of lie angles that were all out of whack. Now, I did not change them so that they're all the same as a comparison. I wanted to leave them as they were when I was playing them. Now, I come to a conclusion that some of them do need to be changed, but that's going through from 10 years ago to now, right? So, but we wanted to see the change in the differences of what the progression of technology, the progression in the heads and in the shafts, what was going on in particularly, okay? And then I wanted to see if I had any outliers. So we do the frequency and we do the loft and lies and the swing weights just to see what is going on in the club, right? So if we had one that all of a sudden is remarkably grand, maybe later on I can copy that and put it into yet another set of my clubs that will be coming down the pike. Now, this is not every one of these clubs, they're not all the ones that I've had, because of being on staff with an OEM, I've had plenty that I've had and I've turned back in. So these are not all of them. These are the ones that I have claimed as my own. I've put them together. And as you can tell, the funny part about this is apparently I'm a custom ferrule guy. Not one of them is standard except for the very, very first one, of which I didn't apparently have very much access to all those funky different colored ferrules at the time. So let's get back to it just so, and everything else, I cleaned them all up, made sure all the grooves are cleaned up and that kind of stuff. So let's get back to it. Let's do some testing. All right, let's test some irons here. The whole purpose is just to see what's what, right? I truly believe when we start at the top and work our way back, that's probably the way the clubs are going to work out. But you just never know. It's been a while. I did some warming up yesterday just to see if I could hit it or not, because it's been about a month and a half since I've picked up a club. And although I've been fitting and building all that time. And now what we got is the Dynaforged, or the Wilson Dynapower, and I have the Neo 950, but I have it in an R. I think that was probably a mistake on my part. I probably should have got the S because they do play a little soft. However, they feel good, right? So let's see what we can do here. I had some of my warm-up shots in there already. We're going to hit 3 or 4 shots and then move on to the next club. So when you look down at this thing, it has just a slight amount of offset. It's not a gross amount. It's a very forgiving look. I will say a medium top line. Sits well at address for me. It's what I like to see. And see, that was a pretty good strike right there. The straight down the middle, 166. It's still not up to the speed that I'm used to, but we're still getting started. I have the spin rate that I want, right at 6,500, and I actually hit it pretty good. It's a good feeling club, to be sure. It can compete with all of them. There we go. That's what I'm used to seeing right there. That is a 166, 173. I just hit it a little bit better and still swinging. Just a couple mile an hour slower, but if I hit it like that, I'm good. Let's hit one more. That was a miss. I got it down the middle. I just let go of it a little too soon. But the idea here is that it's a heck of a miss, right? And that's telling you about the forgiveness of the club, even if it's got a good look in the bag. All right, let's get another one. Our next club up is the Callaway Rogue ST Pro. Now, I really like this one for a couple of reasons. It's a hollow body, so it's a little more forgiving than one would think, and that it had that blade appearance, so everybody wanted to be cool about it. And I recently changed it out from the steel shafts that came with it to the Acura TZ95s. I really like the TZ95s. They tend to stay with me pretty good. Now, as far as lofts go, the Wilson was 30. This is 31.5, but this one's a little more upright. Both 95 gram, but this one feels heavier because the shaft, I believe, gives a little bit more weight to the bottom of the club. It's always done that. And I also have a slightly larger grip on this one, because this is the club I used when I was doing the Jumbo Max grips. So let's see what we do here. There we go. All right, got up in there. Now, what's been happening here, and the reason why I got rid of this, is that it just didn't feel as solid as it once did. Now, that could be from where I'm hitting it. I think I'm a little bit more toe heavy with this club, and it could be because of the way that it feels. I mean, I'm still getting it out there, but it doesn't have that solid impact anymore. I used to beat this thing pretty good, but just anymore, not so much. That one was terrible. One more. I think I've convinced myself I can't hit these things. See, just hit heavy. That was not very good. Let's finish on a good one. And we'll take one of those out. There we go. Okay, let's move on. All right, we're going to the third golf club, and it is the Mizuno SEL. It's the JPX 921. This is the tour model. This is the one that the designer said this is a MP club in JPX clothing. The reason why I got it was because it was left-handed. Now, surprisingly enough, this thing does have some offset on it. It has a longer blade length than, or it gives the appearance of a longer blade length than as in the other ones because it has a narrow body. Now, what I put in this one was a Mizuno Modus, I put in a Modus Tour 105S in the black anodized with the red, so everything's got a red kind of vibe to it. Now, I really liked hitting these things. Unlike the other one where you had a 30, 62, 31, 62, and that's loft and lie, this is 32.5, 61. So let's see how this one works out. I'll also say is that the swing weights on the other two were at D2, even though one felt, the TZ shaft felt heavier, but they were both at D2 where this is at D0. And the feel of this thing is just massively solid. It's a Mizuno forged product, so as expected, you know, it's transmitting that particular feel. The thing about this one, and the only reason why I left it is I thought maybe I needed a lighter club, but as this one is, as you guys see, is that it's a D0 swing weight. They're all the same length. It's just a hair flatter. I feel like I'm getting a little bit more better contact with the club. And as that's showing that I am, my swing speed hasn't changed too much. So let's see if I can get one more good one in here. That was a miss, but it still got out there. Let's hit one more. It just wasn't as clean. There we go. All right, let's check out another one. Okay, now we are leaving the realm of OEMs and OEDs. This is kind of a transitional company. This is New Level. When Eric had New Level, I was a dealer with these guys, and I was just waiting for them to make a left-handed club. They really never did make one until much later, and the reason why he made it was Eric's dad was left-handed. So these are 1102 forged, and it has 36 put in here. That was for our anniversary. So we're up to about 42, so doing the math, this is a 6-year-old set of clubs. This one, I've got the KBS TGI 95 in it. I tend to gravitate towards that lighter club, or even as we saw in the Mizuno, I don't mind the 105 as long as the club itself is light. This one is also a 30 degree loft, but 61.5 degree of lie angle, and a D2 again. So let's see how this one's going to work. Now, this club was always a high hitting club, and for a low lofted club, it has a lot of meat on the bottom. It has a very, very large cavity, which makes it very, very forgiving, and it feels solid. There we go. You know, in every last one of these, and like most any iron, that when you don't get one right smack dab in the center, you absolutely know it. And that's been the case of all of them, but none more true than maybe in the Callaway and then the Mizuno follow after that. But now when you get these larger cavity backs, that they tend to mute that a little bit. But as you may have heard or whatever, but when you get off in the wrong spot, this thing makes a slapping sound. So what we've been doing is hitting 4 or 5 a piece, even though you may not see them on camera. And what I'm doing is I'm just whittling it down to the best 3. Like that one. All right, let's try the last one. Okay, the last one, but certainly not least, is a club that I had before I got into OEMs, and this is an Orca club. Orca is a small golf company that still exists. They're in the UK, and they were trying to expand over here, and we were trying to help them. It just did not work out. However, in a pursuit to try and make something for lefties, they asked me what I liked. And I told them I liked a golf club that didn't have any angles on it, meaning it was curved this way, curved that way, curved everywhere, not a lot of sharp edges, because around here, edges just means you get caught in the turf. Now, the other part was, we always discussed, was the idea manufacturers were making blades, or they're making super game improvements for left-handed people. Let's get under the bell curve, shall we? And I said, let's make something that, yes, it's forgiving, but it has a pretty decent look. So what this is, a very large cavity back, but it is a forged product. It's not a lot of offset. I would say it has a medium-low offset on it, and a what I would say a medium to low type of sole. Also, the funny part here is, as I was cleaning off all the grips, this is the original grip from, this thing has got to be in that 10-year-old range, and all I did was clean it up, and it was pretty good. This was one of those neons that they had put out back in the day, and I was all about green back in the day. I really enjoyed this club. It just didn't hit very far after we had the genesis of very strong clubs. Let's see how it works. Oh, and this one is the lowest loft, or the weakest lofted at 34. Okay, at 34, and a swing weight just at C9. That was a pure, unadulterated miss, and it feel like it. I got away with one. The thing about this particular club is I've always been able to go pretty straight with it. There we go. A little bit of a pull. That's the gym shot. There we go. That was too much of a pull, but it's there. All right. So much for straight, right? A couple more. Hit this thing. Of course, it's 34. It's going to go high. All right, so what we saw at the top of the heap wasn't surprising. The Wilson Dynaforged outperformed all the rest of them. Now, what do we mean by outperformed? If you're looking for distance, then yes, it outperformed them. Now, what I did was I left one in there that I pulled, and I hit it pretty far, but it was pretty far offline too. Now, as a whole, they all went further than a lot of the other clubs, but you know, when you're talking 7-iron, you want to be pretty tight. That was a mistake shot on my part. As a whole, however, we had the other three that I left it there just to prove a point. The surprise was the Mizuno SEL. Now, I can remember struggling with this thing mightily there towards the end of its usage, and I guess that's the love and hate relationship with golf clubs. The Mizuno 921 SEL just feels really, really solid when you hit it. Now, when you don't hit it, it is massively penal. That's the problem. So it was second place, only just a couple of yards behind. You know, we're talking about 3 yards, and it was a little bit tighter in its pattern, right? So there's the try. Are you going to give up 2 or 3 yards to be consistent, or are you chasing that distance? Now, I will say that the mistake shots that, you know, because we hit 5 and I took out 2, that the mistake shots on the Mizuno were a little bit more penal, meaning that if I missed one with the Dynaforged, it was a 155, 160 shot, where on this other one I was into the 140s tops. All right, so we got to kind of pay attention to that. Now, right after that was the Rogue Pro. Now, I really enjoyed the Rogue Pro when I hit it. I hit some monster shots when I was playing with this particular club. I do like its look. I like its idea. But for some reason, it could be the shaft that's in there now, that I'm always hitting this digger. And I'm thinking maybe the lie angle might be a little too much. And I might bend them and bring them back and see what happens. I always feel like I want to hit that club just so hard because I know what it can do. And again, it's more in the 6 inches between my ears than it is the 6 inches between that and the cup. So there's that one. Now, as we come into it, then we had the new levels and we had the Orcas. The new level was very, very precise. It got into the middle, did very well. It just didn't go as far, and that was one of the reasons why now we're talking a bigger difference. We're talking half clubs or 3/4 of clubs. And then finally, the Orca. The Orca, again, I fully suspected that it would be the shortest club because it's literally 3 and 4 degrees less, which is an entire club, all right? An entire club. Now, the funny part about this one is that what the differences were is that if you look at my quality of hit, the top 3 I hit into the 130 quality of hit. I would say that's just slightly above average. A 133, 134, that's pretty good. And when I hit the last 2, they're in the 128s, and they're basically your standard issue forged club with the cavity brought back out. And so is the SEL. It has a little bit of help. The other 2 are multi-piece, so there's something also to consider, that these multi-piece clubs, not only more forgiving, but may produce a little bit more ball speed, which when you get more ball speed, you get greater distances. And the idea is to be more forgiving. Did we see that? Maybe not, right? So, however, you go from 10 years, 10-year-old clubs to brandy spanking new clubs, and what you see is a 15-yard dispersion in length, all right, 15 yards from lowest to highest. And that's just the way that they're made, okay? But the dispersion, in doing this test, it wakes me up to a couple of things I probably need to do going forward. Number one, I probably need to go into stiff shafts because of the way that the 950s are made. It's not that I'm overpowering the club, because at 84 mile an hour I am not. It's just the way that it acts, okay? However, the other one is the graphite shafts were working pretty good, and they didn't transmit a whole lot of vibration, which the other ones do. The surprising one of them all, the outlier, is still that Mizuno club with the 105. Now, I had 105s in my Rogues when I was hitting them well, so I'm floating between 95s and 105s when it comes to doing that. So back to the whole thought here. Number one is, if you have a set of irons, and the question is, they're at least 3 generations old, which means it's at least 6 years old, 6 to maybe even 4, 8. We're seeing things because my new levels were 6 years old at a bare minimum, and they're probably a little older, that they did not perform as well as something that was 6 years newer. And with relatively, none of these shafts are slouches. We're all looking at the head. They're all the same length, and it's just the way that they're built. So, does it make a difference? The answer is absolutely it does, right? It does, at least it does for me. Now, the question is it worth that change? Now, if I got a 15-yard delta and I went from this to that, yeah, I'm changing. Even if I put one into the trees, the other 2 are straight as an arrow, I am going, because that's literally a club and a half. That changes the way golf is played completely, all right, as opposed to, well, you got to learn how to hit this club. No. Get out there and enjoy yourself when you're playing. Quit making it aggravating. And we're seeing that. We're also seeing that we're seeing that control can come in when you do that. So if you're with the new ideas that are coming out right now, we're starting to see some of the new irons. They've all got them coming out. I'm sure they're all going to be very, very spectacular. And if you're looking at those clubs that are 6 and 8 years old that you're in your bag, chances are you're going to see a massive improvement by going to something new. Now, did you buy some clubs last year? And is it going to be a massive change? Probably not, okay? Probably not. Only because these are little tweak changes and when you're going over 6 years, that it's a big change, right? So that's where you really got to consider that. I do get that question a lot. Now, also, if you weren't fit for your first set, I would suggest getting fit and making sure that you have it, because slight tweaks or changes could just turn in your current set into a real weapon. And that's what we want you to do, is have some fun, right? That's what we want you to have fun. All right, so hopefully you enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe. Hit that stuff across the bottom. Join us on the live streams that are Mondays at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Talk about the same kind of stuff. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And as always, let's see your scores go low.